Mhm.
So yeah, you want to talk about Leo?
Yeah. So Leo was Vijay's latest movie, and this was one movie that I liked. Honestly, I think among all the movies we're going to discuss today, this was my favorite. And so this is the third movie in the Loki verse, right? After Kaidi and Vikram, right?
Yeah.
After Kaidi and Vikram. So when I saw the trailer, and I know I've seen a few Vijay movies before this. So when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh no. Yeah.
We know your brilliant performance, and I talked about Puli.
Yeah. So
Already
you know, after having watched Puli and after having liked the movies in the Loki verse and Barasu, yeah, I watched Barasu as well. And after having enjoyed the Loki verse, I saw okay, the third installment is here. I was like, yay! And then I saw Vijay's in the trailer. I was like, no, he's gonna ruin the movie with his, you know, his quirky charm and all, like his humor where humor doesn't belong. Those kind of scenes. And the trailer also had that the song, right, like the really upbeat song Naredi. So I was like, okay, they're gonna ruin the movie. I had a sliver of hope that maybe it's just that song, and then the rest of the movie is the, you know, dark and gritty Loki verse, and they actually delivered a pretty good job on that. And honestly, I feel like this was the first time I saw Vijay actually being, you know, actually acting well and not just, you know, like going out with
Yeah,
drama
I
or something.
agree. I've always had this opinion that Vijay is kind of a box role, right? That he's kind of limited in what he chooses to do. And I thought that was because he's doing what he's good at, and that's all he does. Right? Like it's not anything very experimental or out of the ordinary, because that's all he can do. And I think this movie has proven me wrong. It's not that he can do only so much, it's that he chooses to do only so much. Because he really did like expand his like performance with this movie. Like I have never seen him act this well in any film up till date. This is probably my favorite performance of Vijay. And he really gave it his all. I can't believe it took him this long to do this, but I think he did. Actually, I don't agree with that because I like Puli as a good experimental film. But still, like I think in general, this was one of my things that he did experiment and he followed through on his experimentation and it went brilliantly. Like it's one of those movies, right? But for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, how's life like? You know, living under that rock here under. But yeah, this is basically a series that is a Tamil series that Lokesh Kanagaraj does, and it's this series of action films that are kind of taking place in the same universe, which is like I guess kind of not exactly the version of India we live in, but it's like an India where there's drugs are very rampant and people are very desperately trying to peddle these drugs, and the heroes basically have to save them. So this series is about an incidental hero was just a regular guy. You know, so he had a coffee shop in like Himachal Pradesh, very rural town, and he gets caught up in this like world of you know drugs, unfortunately, and he's trying to protect his family um, while trying to like accept his violent past that he used to have basically. So the movie really teeters on this line of like who this man is, and is he really who the villains claim him to be, or is he just you know a regular guy, right? Like that's kind of what this movie is. And I know that this movie did like a huge like thing saying, "Oh, this is my take on a history of violence," right? That's what Loki Anna said at the beginning of the movie. And have you watched A History of Violence?
No.
Okay, so I guess then I have to talk.
Wait, is that an Indian movie?
No, it's an English movie. It's like based on like a comic book.
And they reference it in Loki.
Yeah, so
in
he
Leo?
says in the beginning of the movie, remember he says that, you all know, history of violence impacted me, like very deeply. So this is my like tribute to that. So yeah, I think that this movie is I don't I get it. I do get the parallels that someone can draw to a history of violence. But I think one of the things for me that really kind of divides them is that a history of violence is more like a psychological thriller. There is really like a drama that's associated with our lead, right? Like he's really trying to go through what he did in the past and how he's supposed to deal with that stuff and how he's supposed to deal with his family and all these things. Um, I don't feel like this movie is more that. This movie is more an action thriller kind of thing. It's not as much of a drama. There are dramatic elements, but that is like a huge difference. And I think that that definitely sets this movie apart from a history of violence. So I like that aspect of it a lot. So yeah, we can talk about the first action sequence and what do you think of it, because this is an action movie.
Yeah, so the movie starts off with its first action sequence where there's like a hyena kind of wreaking havoc on this village, and the cops are trying to contain it, but it's a really violent breed, and it's hurting people, destroying some property, you know, causing a lot of panic. And then they call Parthiban, who's played by Vijay, who's an animal control, like an expert, and then he comes and helps out. So overall, I think the hyena, the animation, the graphics, whatever, the CGI could use some work, but it's not like a deal breaker.
It's not the worst, yeah.
It's not the worst, but yeah, I guess
I mean, you
it's
could
not
tell
on,
it wasn't real, but
Yeah.
like that's fine.
it's not on par with Hollywood, but it
It's
needs
all they
work.
could do with the money.
Yeah, which is fine. And then apart from that, the action sequences were good. Although the hyena is like a really large one. It's not what when you picture a hyena when you see something on TV,
Okay,
it's
but,
usually a tad bit larger than a dog. But this hyena was giant.
okay, but like I think that's because like all of us picture what they looked up like on Lion King, and you have to consider the fact that you're comparing them to lions in that movie.
I mean,
So they are very big actually in real life.
yeah, so my comparison came from like actually Animal Planet, Nat Geo, and stuff.
Okay.
So they are large, but I don't think they are that large.
I think they can be that large. Like adult male hyenas are pretty big.
I mean,
I know
yeah,
that
I
one was a
could
little
check that out.
freakishly large in comparison, but I still think it's not like out of place large.
maybe, yeah. But I mean, so the reason I brought that up was that his sheer size made it kind of unrealistic that Vijay being able to just battle with his bare hands. But it was not the worst thing. I mean, it is an action movie. You have a classic hero, so you got to do something over the top. So I like the action movie, and like the rest of the movie, the action scenes were brilliant. It was so John Wick esque, and the hyena was actually kind of like John Wick's dog. So it was a lot of
It was a
inspiration
happy
from
version,
John
no?
Wick.
You guys can be like, no animals part with this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, action sequences were great. Like the audio was great. The sequences themselves, the combat was all good. Guns were good. Like everything was pretty good. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that coming from Indian cinema.
I think for me, the part that was like really great was that I think it pulled you in the beginning itself, right? Like I know a lot of people say this, but openings really do define a lot of movies. Like something you start a movie being extremely boring and there's like no explanation to a lot of things, you can lose interest very fast. Whereas this movie, I think from the get-go, because the first action sequence itself is so jam-packed, it's so well made. And yeah, while you can say sure it's not like the best graphics and all that stuff, but I think that for the money they had, they did a really good job. They didn't seem like they just wasted money on other things. They did take their time to actually make like a good production of this film. So for me, that was my favorite part of this movie because it starts off with a series that makes you want to watch the rest of the movie. And I want to follow Parthivan as a lead, as a result of that first action sequence. I know a lot of people talk about how they don't think this movie is that good and it's not the best of the MCU and all of this stuff. I think a lot of it is just people kind of hyping this movie up in their head too much. Like I think it was really an overhyped film. Everywhere I went, I saw people talking about it, talking about like they wanted to get ready, they wanted to get first show tickets. You know, they were just like there in the ready to do it like in the beginning itself, and I think that definitely ruined a lot of people's expectations. I don't think that that's fair. I think that this is actually a really, really well done movie. Especially when I consider like Parthivan's cracking point in this film. Like that's one of another like it's such a brilliantly acted sequence as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Let's say one valid criticism was that, without giving away too much, the central theme of the plot kind of revolves around astrology. And for me, it's not, for
What's
me,
the
it's like,
villain's
it's almost like
main
an,
plot?
yeah. So it's almost like an easy way out for me. I feel like if there was, a more intelligent plot, it would have been nice rather than, astrology and then people doing crazy things because of astrology.
I think for me, the occult, like the belief in the occult, is a little, yeah, it's a little, kind of soap opera. But that said, I do think that they acted up. But I do agree. For sure, I think the problem for me in this movie lies more with the villain story than it does with the lead story.
Yeah.
Because the lead story seems to be well thought out, well dramatized, but the villain story is a little like I don't know why they're there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. When you get it explained to you, you're kind of like, it's not
Yeah.
really that great of a reason to do all this,
You could probably explain it in like 3 sentences.
Yeah,
At most, right?
exactly. So it's like a very meh in terms of like, I'm not really like that afraid of these villains as I should be. And I think that also has to do with the fact that Sanjay Dutt is kind of phoning in some of his performance. It's not his best.
Oh yeah, that reminds me again. It's the same thing. So there's a scene. So see, it's a Vijay movie, right? So Vijay is gonna beat everybody up and be the strongest guy there is. And there were plenty of those scenes, and then comes Sanjay Dutt, 65 something, not built, not agile, nothing, and he's beating up Vijay, who's beaten up like 100 guys before that. It's like how though?
I
You
know. But I also want to say that like on that subject, but I think that the fight scenes in this movie they felt more raw because people were actually taking damage, and it was not just like them standing around being untouchable and nothing happens to anyone except the extras. It was never like that. Like everyone was taking damage and they were taking good damage. Like it was the heroes were taking damage, the villains were taking damage, and that I think is like one of my favorite aspects of this movie.
Yeah, I like that too. Usually, many times in Indian movies, they do show the lead getting injured, and then suddenly comes a burst of motivation. And even though there's blood on him and scratches, he seems to be unfazed and he can fight, as if he's fresh completely. That's something they did do in Vijay. You see him limping, you see him panting like Keanu Reeves and John Wick, and I think that's a pretty good thing. It actually it's not like it doesn't make you just expect okay the hero's gonna beat everybody. You actually have some back and forth going on in your head that maybe like okay he's beaten up, he's tired, he's exhausted. So I think that's pretty good thing. I think it's realistic.
Speaking of Parthivan in this movie, what do you think that they did a good job in differentiating Parthivan and Leo in this movie? Do you think there were two performances?
It's I think they did a good job. They did do a good job, but it's also so when I'm as a viewer, it's like I was really expecting him to be Leo. So I think but if that wasn't true, I think it's the acting was they're kind of different. So
I mean, so to me, it's not about like that. I don't think like this was like a thriller mystery where it was like, oh, is he Leo? Isn't he Leo? It's not like that. But I think the part for me that's like kind of good is, yeah, there are technically two different characters. Vijay does a good job of playing Parthiban differently and playing Leo differently. But I will also say that like they don't really do that much of a setup for Parthiban to not be Leo. Like he starts off itself pretty much, like it's the cracking point. While it's a very entertaining and well done, and it's very dramatic, and you can see the pain that Vijay is going through in that scene. But it still feels like kind of like, yeah, they didn't really do a good job setting it up. You know, that's just like my opinion. Like they didn't do a good job setting up this different characters. So while there are technically two different acting roles, the story itself doesn't really lend that much branching out for the characters.
Yeah, I agree actually. So they do a decent job of showing that there are two characters, but then they don't do a decent job of showing that they're two different people. So you, as a viewer, you have the impression that yeah, they're two different characters, but then it's kind of obvious that he changed from character A to character B.
And I think that's also when like he tries to convince Satya that he's not this character. It kind of becomes kind of like it's like a weird moment. It's a very emotional moment, but it's like a weird moment because it's like no, this is not like doing anything for me.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, yeah, because it's such like a heartfelt moment, but then you know that it's not honest. So
yeah, and I think that's the other thing to me. Like, what do you think of Satya in this film?
I mean, I think she didn't really have any, standout scenes or anything. It was mostly Vijay stealing the show. But I mean, I guess as a supporting character, not too bad. She played her role. It was just like a regular role, like a supportive wife, a loving wife kind of thing.
I think for me, the part that's like a little kind of iffy is that he never admits to his family who he is, and that's kind of not really that great. Like, I think that that's why I bring up that scene where he's like basically lying to her, and I think that she's a little like very laid down types. So she's going to accept this, but it just doesn't seem right to me. So while I think that Trisha does a good job, I just think that Satya as a person should really start being less naive.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm kind of okay with them not revealing your, your infamous ex-villain. I think it's fine because it's something you. I mean, I know it's literally your spouse. You're supposed to have, trust in them, but I feel like it's just not worth revealing to anybody because if the risk is that if anybody gets to know, if anybody even gets wind of it, he's gonna go to jail forever. So I think it's okay to.
I guess,
just forget about it.
Just pretend we're not that person. Yeah. That's fair. Speaking of the LCU, do you think that this movie is a good addition to the LCU? Do you think it did a good job?
Yeah, I think it's a good addition to the LCU, but it's a good addition in the sense that thematically, it's in line with the universe. They didn't kind of, ruin stuff, and I would be like, okay, the fourth movie has to answer all of these things now. They didn't they kept the universe intact. It's a good movie. They kept the same vibe, the nitty gritty, the dark and gritty, the action packed vibe. But then it's just the problem because the problem I have is that the other two movies had a really good plot line with the villain, and in this movie it was just you just have to accept that okay, these are the problems the villain has, and this is what he's doing. You just have to accept it. If you put too much thought into it, it's going to break down very quickly. So that part, not too not in line with the LCU because the LCU has usually done a good job with that.
I think for me, the other thing that I heard was a criticism of this film was that it's not a good and like they kind of just had like these Easter eggs, and it's not really tied to the LCU plot. Like none of these people are like the main. There's no like evidence that this is part of like the whole drug front that's kind of running through India, right? According to the other two stories. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think that this is the beginning of a series, is not like the middle of the series where we have to have all of this like plot. They're still introducing characters. They're still setting up who's gonna be in the final battle or whatever they're gonna do. Like we don't know how this movie's gonna progress, but like that's so for me when it's like that, I think it's fine to just have Easter eggs. It's okay. It's good to just show that okay, this is part of the same universe. So Parthivan will probably return in another movie. That's all. I think added to this, I think the biggest problem for me is like what you said is that I don't think the main story of this is exactly tied to the LCU, unlike the other two movies, which can be entertaining. Like it's interesting to see how like this incidental destruction, but I'm hoping that like later down the line they will explain certain plot points in this film that weren't very clearly explained to me. Like for instance, I don't know why the villains who were in the beginning of the movie, like why they were actually out there, like who they were being a hitman for, right? That was never very well explained. So at the beginning of this movie, there's like this hit job, and that's like they murder this collector in this tiny town in Himachal Pradesh, and that these are the same people who end up trying to rob Parthivan's coffee shop, and that's how he like has to like go back and learn this the truth about his past and all these things. So it's like an incidental death in the movie, but I'm hoping that there's like going to be a more concrete explanation down the line of it, because then it would kind of make sense why they set that up. But if not, then it's kind of a really random plot point.
Yeah, if I had to make a prediction, it would be that they're not going to address any of this. I think the point of Leo was that here is some history about Parthivan, aka Leo, and this is why he's a seasoned fighter, and now he's going to join the rest of the gang in LCU. I don't think they're going to focus on this plot at all.
I hope they do, because otherwise it's a really detracting fact for me, because this is not a good movie. Then. Like I think it's like it's become like it's kind of it's I won't say that. I think it's a good movie. I think it's just like a I would take a few points from this film because it kind of made it a very random incident that he was discovered.
They could do like a Leo 2, Leo 3, and then like a Lokiverse crossover thing. But I feel like they're not going to do that. It's just going to be maybe like a couple more movies, get a good A-list cast, and then just do a crossover. I think
that's definitely what's going to happen. That even I predict is going to happen. Yeah, I think overall this is a good movie. I think that people hyped it too much in their heads, and that's why they're disappointed. Is it the best LCU movie? No. But I don't think it's like a bad film that you should be like disappointed after watching. It's a perfectly good film, and I think it's probably my favorite performance.
Yeah, I agree. It was a really good movie, and Vijay did a great job. If you want Desi John Wick, this is it.
Today, you said Vijay did a good job.
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, I liked him in Tupaki. It's just when there's a serious moment going on and Vijay breaks into his, uncalled for laughter. I just find it so unappealing. But he did a good job in Leo, and yeah, it's a good movie. Lots of action. If action's what you're going for, you're gonna enjoy this movie.
Right. Gonna go from the highest of highs
to
the lowest of lows. Chandramukhi 2.
Yeah, Chandramukhi 2.
I have just one question. Why?
I don't know why they did this. And I don't know who lied to us that there's Snoop Dogg in Chandramukhi 2.
Huh? I don't know why that was on the IMDb. That's so random.
Yeah, so it was like 2-3 months ago, right? When I checked the IMDb.
Yeah, before the movie released, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it was she who told me that, apparently Snoop Dogg's in Chandramukhi 2. And I was like, no way. Why on earth would he be in Chandramukhi 2? And then I look up the IMDb cast list, and there he was. Snoop Dogg listed for Chandramukhi 2. I was like, okay, I guess I was wrong. And then it's just nowhere to be seen. It was just a bug. And I looked up the IMDb again, and he's gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that
I
happened.
was just a marketing gimmick to get people to go watch it.
Maybe, maybe, but yeah,
I don't know. But I still that didn't answer my question. Why?
yeah. There was no after having seen Chandramukhi 2, there was no reason for that movie to be made at all.
Yeah, I just don't know who asked for this sequel.
Yeah.
Like nobody asked for this sequel. It's not even really a sequel. It's literally the same movie.
It's just every now and then one of these remakes or sequels come out that just that just bank on nostalgia. That's what they want to make money off of.
They
That's
didn't
what
even
Chandra.
make money. That's the thing. This movie didn't even run in a theater near us, and I'm really, really glad that we didn't spend real money
Yeah.
to go and watch this movie, and we just watched it at home because I think I would have been very offended if supposing I had spent my hard-earned money on this garbage.
Yeah, I dozed off more than once. It was not a great movie, and you'd expect some throwbacks to the original movie. You'd see a scene and you'd go like, "Oh," and then the scene from Chandramukhi will play in your head. Some of that nostalgia is expected, but what this movie did wrong was that it's almost like they're reenacting the original.
Yeah,
movie,
it's like
it's just lazy.
they didn't even reenact. That's the part that's very frustrating to me, right? It's like even if they had reenacted it, I would have been a little less offended because it would have been like, okay, it's a new take on an old scene. They didn't do that, right? Most of the movie is them just referencing funny stuff or like interesting stuff from the last movie. Like there's this scene where oh god, I'm so sad. But Vadivelu comes in this movie. It's so depressing, and he's still playing obviously the same character. He's still playing Murugesha, and they just think about they just remember that scene. You remember there's like a scene where he asks Rajnikant if ghosts are real, and they do this, which is it's already a reenactment of another like movie, but at least that was funny because it was like they actually reenacted it. Here they just reference it, and they're like, "Oh, guys, you remember how funny it was when Vadivelu howled, not Vadivelu, Rajnikant howled like a dog? Like that's funny, right? Like you remember that? Now laugh for us, laugh for us." We haven't said any jokes in our movie.
Yeah, it's not the. There's like no originality in this movie, and it was so the original movie in the original Chandramukhi. There was also this other thing where you don't know whether there's real possession or it's some kind of like some mental trauma or something, right?
Yeah, it's a bipolar disorder.
So
Not bipolar, sorry.
like split personality,
Yeah.
right? Multiple personality. So there's that conundrum in the original Chandramukhi that's kind of interesting, but in this movie, it's not really there. It's kind of pretty obvious that it's actual possession, and then after that, it's all the scenes they keep getting crazier and crazier because it's like it's just literally possession, so anything can happen. Everybody has superpowers. It's just a mess, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, the part that's like especially upsetting is that like if you look at it, Chandramukhi itself is a remake, right? It's a remake of Manichitra Tare, and I think Manichitra Tare obviously works really well because it's a psychological thriller that does go through, and you can argue both sides, like what you said, which is that you can argue that, oh no, this is just a deeply traumatized human being who has ended up taking this role because of who she is, right? Or you can take it as, oh, this is a messed up house that has a spirit that is like affecting this woman because she is like more vulnerable in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no real answer in Chandramukhi as well. And people will argue, oh, Chandramukhi is not a good movie in itself. It's not a psychological thriller. But the reason why Chandramukhi works as a good remake is because it is a different take on a psychological thriller. It's no longer a psychological thriller. It is, what if you took Manichitra Tare and made it into a comedy horror, right? and that's why I think it's a good remake, because even though people can argue that it's not the perfect version of the original, it does a good job of blending comedy and horror and even like good thriller to make it into this, you know, perfectly good film that keeps the essence of Maniship Sutare, which is that, is it real or is it spiritual? Like, is it a real illness or is it actually like a ghost possession? This movie completely removes that, which means it is no longer carrying the essence of the original movie, of the original Maniship Sutare, of the original Chandramukhi, or Bhool Bhulaiya, whichever version you followed, it is not carrying that at all, which is such a disaster to me. It doesn't make it a good movie if you have two ghosts, because you've ruined it by having ghosts.
Yeah, there's also, if the ghost is haunting people, there's like a fear factor to it. But now it's just two ghosts battling, so neither
Each
of
other,
them.
yeah.
So
They're both
there's
supernatural. Nobody's
Yeah.
harmed.
It's
Some
that kind
random characters who die. Nobody who matters dies. So who gives a shit?
Yeah, it takes a lot from the atmosphere of the movie, and for me at least.
And it's such an archaic idea as well. The whole like message of the story is, guys, you should still love someone if they marry outside your religion.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, what is this, 1950? We know that already. It's not like a new thing to tell people.
Yeah, so for me the horror aspect was lost, and then so the only thing that's left is comedy. And for me, in the original one, it's kind of like a good dynamic and dialogue back and forth between Rajnikant and Vadivelu, and I haven't watched that many Rajni movies, but I still feel like in the original one you want to follow Rajni and you want to listen what he says to. It's
You're
like
right.
it's funny, it's fun. You just want to follow him throughout the movie. And honestly, Raghavendra Lawrence is not a bad actor, and I also liked him in the other movie we watched him in, Kanchana. He did a good job, but he doesn't have that. I don't want to follow him the way I wanted to follow Rajnikant. He doesn't have that fun aspect to him, and that the lack of that also bleeds into Vadivelu's comedy for me. So every time Vadivelu would crack a joke in this movie, I feel like it's just forced and artificial. So it kind of ruined both characters for me.
I think for me the problem is not that. The issue is that, see, Vadivelu and Rajnikant had a good dynamic because there was a mockery element to Rajni's way of speaking, and there was a mocking element to Rajni's way of speaking, and mockery element to the way Vadivelu was speaking. In this movie, we're supposed to laugh at Raghavendra Lawrence as well, and we're supposed to laugh at Vadivelu as well in most of the scenes, which means that neither of them are really, it's just a joke on both of them. It's not a joke at one of them, which is, yeah, sure, there were obviously scenes in the movies in Chandramukhi where, like specifically the scene I was talking about, where actually speaking both of them, the joke is on both of them, but they do it sparingly. They don't do it throughout the movie, which is why it works. Like there is a good dynamic because of that. There's a balance of both. There's a balance of people making fun. There's a balance of people getting made fun of. But at the same time, you can flip the switch and that happens as well. But this is not there in this movie at all. Also, Vadivelu is clearly not. He was there for the money. You can tell he was not there because he wanted to be in this movie. He was just there because they were paying him. This is his next performance that I've seen after Mamanan, which is so disappointing to me because Mamanan, he did such a good job, and he's back in this trash, disaster, dumpster fire of garbage.
Another thing in this movie was
Also comedy, production. Production was comedy. The production of the movie was the comedy.
Yeah. Another thing in this movie was how little regard they had for the kids. There was this scene
They were just there to look cute.
Yeah, there was this scene where the kids were afraid and they wanted to go sleep with grandma, and grandpa kicked them out.
It was not grandpa, that was her son.
Oh, that was his son. Oh yeah, he kicked the little kids out because they were scared and they wanted to sleep with grandma, and he kicked them out of the room. Why would you do that?
And also, like, there were like some scenes that didn't even make sense, where there was just this uncle like sleeping on like a sofa instead of in like a regular bed.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell was that? Why was he asleep on like the sofa?
They had 46 rooms and
Yeah.
they couldn't find a bed.
Yeah, dude, everyone else has a bed except this uncle who's like 75. What
Yeah.
is his back will be dead at the end of this like trip.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. And there was also
And
this
it's
thing.
not even the regard that the people had for the children, by the way. It's also the movie itself had no regard for them. They just disappeared
Yeah.
through half the movie.
Yeah.
Like half the movie they weren't there. They were just there for a cute crutch. They couldn't have made Raghavendra Lawrence the missing son. That would have been so much easier.
Yeah, they just
Why
Yeah.
did they need the kids? What did they achieve?
just to look cute.
The fuck? Stupid.
They were just there. So there were some scenes where they show that the main family has problems with Raghavendra Lawrence, right? And then the kids were just there to, be like a little cute bargaining chip. Like, you can hate me, fine, but don't hate the kids. And then once the kids were accepted, the kids disappeared.
Yeah.
There's no story about the kids at all, and the movie is just going on.
Yeah, like,
So-
they didn't add anything
Yeah.
to the plot. There's just a bunch of. This movie is very much running on like an and then
Mhm.
thing. So it's like and then. So this family has an accident, and then they ask their guru, and then they go to this castle, and then Vadivel shows up, and then they find these kids who are like their long lost relatives, and then it's like that's it. That's the movie. Like if you ask me why one scene led to another, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just supposed to accept the fact.
Just accept that there's something running
Yeah.
on the TV. That then you can watch this movie. If you accept that, that's what you're expecting. Pretty colors on a television screen.
Mm.
This is the movie for you.
What did you think of the two actresses there dancing? Since you're a dancer.
Dude, they paid Kangana Ranaut. You know how much they paid her?
How much?
Just guess.
10 crores?
20 crores.
Oh no, it's like Urvashi and Legend.
No, they paid her 20 crores to be in this movie.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's why the production is a joke. They spent it all on Kangana Ranaut.
What was their budget?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Does it matter? I think they had like it was like in 80. They had to do I think 87 crores, something like that. Because
87 crores.
If I
20 went to
remember
her.
correctly, 87 was what they needed to break even. So probably.
And 20 went to Kangana Ranaut.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
Exactly. They just spent their money on her.
Wow.
That's why they couldn't have her for the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's the other weird thing about this is that like there are two ghosts in this movie and they completely ruin Vettayan in the original film, which is so sad to me because I really like that performance from Rajni. I like villain Rajni more than I like hero Rajni. I know it's a controversial opinion, but I just like him. He has like a very when he turns evil, he has this like very, very like unappealing like feel. Like it's like you can get chills every time. I've never seen a villain Rajni performance that I dislike. Like there's no, even if the movie itself is not well taken or whatever the hell, he always does a brilliant job if he's the villain, right? So yeah, that's why I'm so sad that Vettayan was completely ruined in this film. But it's so weird because the actual villain of this movie, Sengottayan, it's stupid. I'm spoiling it for you. It doesn't matter. The actual villain of this movie is Sengottayan. He is played by Raghavendra Lawrence,
Yeah.
but Chandramukhi is not played by Lakshmi Menon.
Yeah.
They could have just not hired Kangana Ranaut and had Lakshmi Menon play both, and it would have solved all their problems.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. So the male antagonist, his personas are played by Raghavendra Lawrence, but for the female antagonist, one of them is played by Lakshmi and one of them is played by Kangana. Which I don't know what was the decision behind that.
Yeah, it's a dumb decision because the whole point of the other thing is that it's supposed to be like a previous era, like it's actual history, right? So they
Yeah.
could have just had anyone play him.
Yeah, they should have done that.
Yeah.
I don't know why they.
Or they should have had the same person play it. There's only two
Yeah.
options.
I actually don't know why they did that.
So they couldn't get Rajni to play Vettayan because they would have to,
Then they should have just made Lakshmi play both, right?
Maybe that's why they didn't do it because they were like, we have 2 out of 3, but then they ran out of money to pay one more person, so they just gave it to Raghavendra Lawrence.
20 crores to Kangana Ranaut, 20 crores, no, then probably 40 crores to Rajni, and then 20 for the rest of the movie.
They would have died. They killed those.
Yeah, that would have been.
I don't think Rajni
Worse.
takes 40 crores. I'm sure he takes way more than that. What are you paying it to?
I
Crazy.
mean, okay, at least twice of her.
The cameo would have been 40 crores.
Yeah. So then, then they wouldn't have had any money to make the movie,
Yeah.
and it would have turned out worse.
I mean, they didn't have any money to make
Yeah.
the movie. Did you
They're
see
kinda
those
broke.
mastiffs?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the mastiffs were again like just CGI.
Dude, they could have
cartoon
just
dogs.
hired real mastiffs, and then for the one scene, they could have like spent it on the dog, like throwing the dog around.
Yeah, when they're flinging the dogs.
Yeah, it
But
could have. It would have looked bad, but at least they would have had. They would have taken less money because like hiring a real mastiff is probably cheaper than getting like a CGI guy to do it.
See, but there's also the fact that if you're gonna have a scene anyway where there's a CGI dog who's gonna disappoint the audience, what is the point of having real dogs for the rest?
I know, but at least I'll be less disappointed for the rest of the scenes. It's a
No,
real
will
dog.
you? You're gonna be disappointed anyway. So why would they spend money on
I
real
just
dogs
think
at that point?
I just think they could have solved a lot of the problems if they had just not had if they had just not had Kangana Ranaut. They could have spent that 20 crores on like an actual animation studio.
I mean, I liked her in the movie. but
Chota
yeah.
Beam Animation Studio. Whatever the fuck the name is. What is it? Green Studio or something like that. It's called.
I liked her in the movie, but I guess
I don't think
if
it's
your
them. I'm just insulting them.
if your budget's in like 87 crores, probably don't spend 20 crores on one person.
Yeah, I do.
But I did like her in the movie though. I think she acted well.
She's fine. Like I liked her. Yeah, I don't know. They should have. Lakshmi Menon was like a complete disaster in this movie. I don't know what she was doing.
Yeah.
And she danced like a moron.
Yeah.
Did you see her? Like when she was doing like any step, it was always like she's a traffic conductor.
I mean, I did notice some flailing around, but I thought that was because she's kind of going cuckoo, right? So.
No, see, sure, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you look at Shobana, the original, she has a cuckoo dance. She has a same dance.
Yeah,
like, she has
she
a
does.
dance where she pretends to be like the action actress, and then she has the version that's like kind of more. But like, there's still a difference,
There is.
between when a dancer is trying to act loony and when an actual person is trying to act loony. And it's like so obvious. And to me, the part that's so bothersome is that there are actresses that exist clearly who do have a Bharatanatyam background, who do have like a Kathak background, who you could easily hire, right? Like, if you remember, like this is something that like bothered me so much. Like when I watched Shivaji the Boss, and they redid like the Rara scene from Chandramukhi. Shreya Sharan did like a 210 time better performance than Jyotika could ever do. And that's solely because Shreya Sharan is a Kathak dancer.
Mhm.
Whereas Jyotika is not any dancer. She's never learned dance in her life. It's just why there are actresses. Just use them. They're there to do these movies. Like Vasu has done this twice now. He's done 2 movies where he refused to hire somebody who can dance. Whereas the original fucking hired somebody who can dance for their movie because the movie is about somebody who can dance.
Yeah. I think everybody expects the dance scene in these movies, right? So you should hire a dancer.
Yeah, just get somebody who can dance. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Don't hire Lakshmi Menon. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And the thing for me is that she's not been seen. Like, this is the first. I know she's acted in one more movie apparently after this. Like I don't remember that. I didn't see that movie. But yeah, she hasn't been in the film industry for like 4 years. And this is like the first movie I'm seeing her. This is the movie I'm seeing her. This is so depressing to me.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah. I think the part that's the most bothersome to me though is that priest.
The one who got his head chopped off?
No, the priest for the temple. So
Oh, that
basically
makes
the
sense.
story is these guys have gone and they're trying to find like their Kula Devam. I don't know what that is in any other language, but it's essentially like the deity that you pray to in your city, like your original city, like where your ancestors are from.
Subtitles called it clan deity.
I guess that's a good description. Yeah, clan deity is probably a good description. But yeah, so yeah, like they go to see their like Kuladevam like temple, and when they go to see this temple, it's like in disrepair. It's decaying. It's like there's like shrubbery growing around it. There's like you can't even see the goddess. Like that's where it's at. Alright? This is the state in which this temple is in. Now, you as the audience tell me that if you saw a temple like this, would you ever assume that this is a working temple? Or would you assume it's the ruins of an actual temple?
Yeah, it definitely looked like, I mean, it was in shambles, so it did look like ruins.
And then
Yeah.
there's a priest that goes
Yeah,
there
yeah.
every day and does his prayers to what? You can't even enter the temple. There's forest around it. What is he doing? He's just sitting there praying to God. That means you're a sage. You're not the priest of the temple. You're just a sage. Just call him a sage. It would solve so many problems.
Yeah, I know at the time I told you I can let it slide, but when I gave it some more thought, if somebody is that devoted to stay in the temple despite nobody visiting for like years and years,
You
then
clean the place up.
yeah, the usual plot line is to be like he's so devoted, nobody's coming, he just took it upon himself and planted trees and cut the bushes
Yeah.
and did everything himself.
He's just
Yeah,
like,
he's just-
nah, I'm too scared of
Yeah.
Chandramukhi, so I'm just gonna fucking.
He's just existing in the wilderness
Yeah.
for like 50 years because he
Yeah.
said his father was here too, so he's just been there for like half a century.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It's the worst. Literally the worst.
Yeah.
I guess, and I'm so like we didn't get a chance to talk about Vettayan.
Mm-hmm. Vettayan was
The
Vettayan
actual
was
king in Chandramukhi, and then they decided to do
the S guy killed him, right?
Sengote.
Sengotian, yeah. Sengotian killed him, yeah. I mean,
I don't get it. I don't get why we needed another villain. Was it because they realized that Rajini's performance as Vettayan was so good that you never imagined living up to him? Maybe is
Yeah.
that the decision that they went with?
I guess so, yeah. They had to end that character.
But I think the point that bothers me, another thing that bothers me about that movie is that Rajnikant, at least I mean in my head, is an old man. So like when he like kidnaps this random woman from some from Andhra Pradesh and brings him here. It's like a weird, creepy old man who's just kidnapping some random woman to be his mistress because he's a shitty dude who sucks. And in this movie, they don't do that. First of all, he's a young guy in this movie, which is like already ruins like a part of this door that kind of pissed me off. And then the second part that's annoying to me is that I don't see why he needs to be switched out at all. And the part that's even more baffling to me in all that is that let's say that this guy decided to take up the position of king to himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you arguably, if you were that person, erase the other guy from history?
Yeah.
If you just pretend that there was no Vettayan ever and you are Sengotayan and Sengotayan is the king of this castle and Vettayan never existed. That is what you would say, right? Why would you present yourself as someone else?
Yeah, true.
Like what you want, he's like presented as this egocentric asshole who wants the girl no matter what because he's a shitty dude, and then he just pretends to be Vettayan instead of just owning it and being himself.
Yeah.
What are people going to learn in the future? Like why in the previous movie they were like, this book told us about Vettayan. No, the book should have told you about Sengotayan.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you would when you're someone with that much pride, you would rather that you make yourself the king now
exactly.
instead of pretending.
It's so stupid to me. Like
It's
it
true.
didn't make any sense. Like they ruined his character. They ruined the movie by having these two ghosts have a battle royale at the end of the movie. Like what was that?
Yeah, actually, so
That was the biggest production joke on the planet.
But to that end, I think Sengote and Raghavendra Lawrence did a good job of acting. I think his expressions were on
I mean,
point.
I
think he did a good
think
job.
the actors were not the problem in this movie, honestly.
I mean, the writing was terrible.
I think the story was the problem in this movie. But to me, it's like that was the biggest joke is she was just flailing dogs around that didn't even look like dogs, and I was so pissed. It was like, what the hell's going on?
but like the non-possessed Raghavendra Lawrence, not a fan of his acting in this movie.
I'm not even. I also don't get how he was able to beat a
Oh yeah,
ghost.
without powers.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, there's a scene. Yeah, that made no sense.
Why didn't they just like get them both into the Rangoli? It would have
Yeah.
solved a lot of problems.
Yeah, I don't know.
How
I
did
think
they
they had
exercise
to-
him in like 4 seconds? It took them so long to exercise the demon in the other movie.
Yeah, and he just stepped in, boom, he was fresh, and then he stepped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just had to do the plot line about the sage being beheaded, so his curse ends, right? So that's why they didn't exercise the other one in the Rangoli. They didn't exercise Chandramukhi because they had to have her.
But that was
become
such
the
a
priest.
dumb
'Cause he
like
was cursed.
addition plot. Like what did that achieve? That didn't
Yeah.
achieve anything. That was just like an and then by the way, FYI.
I think they came to the end and they thought, okay, now how do we
End
do
this
a
movie.
dummy dying again like the original, or do we make an actual guy die? And then they just went with it. They just got, okay, so he's gonna be cursed until she kills him, so let's make him get beheaded. I think it was a lot of on the fly writing. Yeah, it was
I don't
great.
think they had a script. You know,
Yeah.
when we said Destiny at this movie.
Divinity, yeah.
Didn't have a script. So you're see Destiny. Yeah. So definitely there's no way. They wrote Chandramukhi's my theory, Pivasu's, I don't know if he has a kid, but either his kid or his grandkid, who's like 4 years old, came up to him and said, I guess grandkid, because Vasu's pretty old. Tata, I wrote this story about your movie Chandramukhi. And then he saw it and it was like a crayon drawing of like a guy beheading waiting. And he was like, yep, this is perfect. Scripted.
Maybe it's probably what happened.
Yeah, they went to like some elementary school and had them write the plot.
It's like the movie version of when somebody says, "Oh, look what my kid drew," and it's like 4 lines that look ugly as hell.
It's like those art exhibit, abstract art garbage where somebody's just drawn one like paint line and glue and they're like,
Yeah.
this is art.
It's very bad.
It's not even that though, because at least that is like, you know, like arguably like style over substance bullshit. This is not even stylish. It's no style, there's no substance. It's neither. It's
If you
just
had
flash.
to pick between Bhagwant Kesari and Chandramukhi 2,
I think I'd pick Bhagavan Kesari.
yeah, same. I'm gonna pick Bhagwant Kesari. I was not a fan of Bale. I am not now either, but compared to Chandramukhi
At least there
2,
was a
only.
plot. There was a plot.
Yeah,
It was a dumb plot, but it existed.
yeah.
This one, I don't even know what happened. These people went on vacation and went into a haunted castle. It's the same story.
Mm.
They went, like it's a family that went to live in a haunted castle and they ended up getting haunted and it's by the same ghost and now it's up to them to exorcise this ghost. If
Yeah.
supposing it's basically just Chandramukhi without the psychological thriller element.
Yeah.
I guess this is what happens when they don't have a script to depend on. Just make trash.
Yeah. I think my list among these movies would be Leo, then a lot of Blank, then Divinity, then Bhagwan Kesari, and then Chandramukhi 2. Leo was up there, and the rest of them not so great, but Chandramukhi 2 was especially terrible.
I'm gonna go with Leo, Blank. Not that much Blank, Divinity. I liked it. I didn't hate it. So it's like probably like Leo's like an 8.5 out of 10, right? And
Yeah.
Divinity is like a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Bhagwan Kesari is like a 4. It's like a 4.
I was gonna go with 2 or something.
It's like a 4. And that's only because I know Balaya's track record. So for that, in comparison, I give it a 4.
Okay, fair.
Chandramukhi 2 is a minus infinity. It doesn't even belong on the scale.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong. It belongs on Venus, dude.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be on. If this is the scale, Venus.
I agree.
Yeah. Don't watch it. Don't bother. It's trash. There's a reason to bomb.
We watched it, so you don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me know if you want me to actually suffer through it in a full-fledged review, because then I can go through each and every detail about why it sucked. But if not, this is the end of our podcast, and we have not named it yet. But you want to suggest a name?
I'm terrible at this. Movie watchers.
watchers.
Now it's your turn.
I thought you were gonna say movie nights. And I
We
was
can
like,
name the
somebody
movie.
already has that.
We can name the podcast in post. And
How
so it's
about
like a
this?
surprise now.
How about it's newbies?
Newbies?
Or I would say newbie, but I think that's like something else.
But it's supposed to relate to movies.
Yeah, but I thought I was gonna try to make it like it's movies plus noobs, so it's newbies.
That's just newbies. That's just noob. Plural of noob is noobs or newbies, I guess.
Oh no! All right, we'll try to come up with something.
Yeah.
Think
we'll
about
figure
it in
out.
post. But yeah,
Just cut this out.
No, I'm keeping it. But yeah, this is Twitch at
ROYYTTV, Roy TV.
Roy TV, and it's nice seeing you guys. We'll try to do this like once every month. Pick the best movies that we watched that month and share them with you all. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe. I also make actual breakdown videos of movies, but I try not to do the newer ones because I don't want to spoil it for everyone. But yeah, see you all.